Well, again, hello everyone, and we are back in the studios of Radio Entrepreneurs, and we are streaming everyday stories of entrepreneurship, business, leadership, and we hope thought leadership around entrepreneurship and leadership. Every week we like to speak with the fabulous Marc Z and have our Marc Z moment. Welcome back, Marc.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be here as always.
Thank you. So, Marc, what's on the agenda today?
Well, I thought we would talk about sort of mandatory movebacks where employees are coming back to work in terms of in a mandatory way. A lot of companies and firms have had people come back who want to on a voluntary basis. However, in terms of a mandate, a lot of it was originally supposed to be right after Labor Day, and it got delayed because of the Delta variant. A lot of concerns that were going on with people who had children in school, people that were concerned about going downtown again, getting on the trains and public transportation. And so a lot of organizations have made the decisions to start in January to say, okay, this last quarter, we're going to continue to not just push it to November 1st or October 15th. They're really following the science and saying, let's go with January, a more realistic date, and give employees a chance to really plan, the employees that were really working totally remotely.
Well, you know, it's funny. I think everybody was trying to think that this had a cycle that was going to end. And what's happening is that I think right now the cycle is you have to be constantly in the process of change, because it's not ending up being what we thought it was. People thought they were going to be going back to work, and now they're into a rotation again.
Well, when you say back to work, that's the interesting part about it. They've been back to work in terms of doing the work, but just in terms of the office. And it's
Right.
very symbolic because they're making the argument, I know you want us to go back at this time, particularly white collar professionals. They're making the argument, I'm knocking it out of the park with my billings and bringing in business. I'm now using Zoom meetings instead of in-person meetings. I can make this happen without going to the office. And it's tough to justify from an employer perspective. However, what we're saying to candidates that we place with firms, even on a voluntary basis, go in the first few months, even if it's a couple days a week. And that way you get to know the people that are in and meet with the people that are in, you know, in terms of the executives and the team. That way you'll become a little bit more acclimated and connect better with the culture, as opposed to many people that start with a company and are working totally remote. They're not having that connection. So it's one thing to have a connection. It's like, remember the old days where you might have been dating somebody locally and then they moved away, but you had that foundation. It's very tough to start a foundation if it's totally long distance. And that's what I'm saying here. Totally remote, when you haven't been part of that company for a while, is very different between being part of that company or law firm and working then remotely when you had worked on site before.
Right. Interesting.
Jeff, the other thing I wanted to say is that firms and companies are now able to do, because of the Supreme Court decision. So even though they're pushing it out when people will come back, they're making it a safer environment by saying you cannot come back unless you've been vaccinated. And their hiring mandates are, which is the word we're getting from employers, we do not want you to present any candidates who have not been vaccinated or do not intend to be vaccinated. So employers are on solid ground to say that for the benefit of their employees that are going to work and making it a safer workplace. So that's why a lot of employees are feeling more comfortable saying, okay, I can come back in January because people are going to be vaccinated.
You mentioned the Supreme Court. What did the Supreme Court decide?
They decided that employers can dictate that people should be vaccinated, that, if they want to hire people, the people need to be hired, need to be vaccinated before they join us.
So they're giving
And
the
they
power to the organization to make that decision.
Right. They're saying it's not illegal, or and they're preventing liabilities. So now employers can require that, and it can't be challenged because the Supreme Court has supported that in the interests of people's health.
I think that's a big decision because a lot of companies are still debating it.
Right.
And I know sometimes in organizations with labor issues, that can be a debate between labor and management as well.
Well, the Massachusetts or the Boston Patrolmen's Association, I was reading about that in their collective bargaining. They have an issue with the governor of Massachusetts saying that he's requiring people in the executive branch to be vaccinated. Whereas the police union is saying we don't want to have that requirement, and they're fighting that. So it'll be very interesting. But if the Supreme Court is saying that you can do that, that empowers employers, and that will lead to workplace safety. And it's very tough to argue against it because there's no fear of liability.
Right. Well, always very interesting, provocative, and the landscape is changing all the time. And I appreciate you keeping us up to date on these things. That's why we have the Marc Z report. Marc, if somebody wants to get hold of you, how would they do that?
Well, first, Jeff, Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C and the letter Z, and we'll come right up, or marczlegal.com, MARCZLEGAL.com, and 617-338-1300.
Oh, Marc, I really appreciate it. We're going to see you again next week, right?
Looking forward to it.
And remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs.